Hey guys, it's Sam Limon back again with another tutorial. This time we're going to be working on our Portfolio Builders assignment, our negative logo. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working with the negative space to create a clever or thought-provoking logo. So by the time you see this video, I should have shown you a few samples and I should have talked to you about negative space logos, a few samples. Let me show you a few again. We have four main areas, so we have like the double entendre, and I'm going to be sharing these files with you as well. So you'll be able to refer back to them for some inspiration. So these double entendre logos usually have like a blend of negative space and a symbol, so they're usually clever, thought-provoking. So we could see a few of these. They usually combine two images. So for example, the name of this business would be Martini House, and you could see it literally has two martini glasses and the shape of a house. We also have this Green Labs, so it has green and then it's some thought-provoking design. So it has a brain in the shape of a tree. We have this Australian pork logo, which gives us an abstract shape of Australia, and then it has a pork snout, the nostrils. So we see that there. We have Yoga Australia, so we see somebody doing a yoga pose, and then within this negative space we also have a shape of Australia. So we have a few different ones. Then we have typographic negative space logos. So the negative space usually creates a letter in these. So if we see this one for USA Network, there's no S there. However, it is in the negative space, so it was cleverly created there. So instead of a filled shape such as the A or the U, the S again is in the negative space. The same thing here with space. The C and the P are negative. And so this makes up for some, pretty interesting design. We also have hidden images. So if you go to hidden images, sometimes these are very clever or mysterious, depending on how much these the hidden message stands out. So for Baskin Robbins we have this 31 flavors, so the B and the R make up a 31, and they even emphasize it by using different colors. We have the Tostitos logo, which has two people sharing a bowl of dip and sharing a chip as well, so those T's make up people. We have the Spartan Golf Club, so the negative shape creates this whole angle of the swing, kind of like a wind element, and the positive shape of this character swinging also gives us like the face of a Spartan, and so on and so forth. So we have a few different ones. Amazon, of course, we have an arrow going from A to Z, so it shows you that it covers everything, and it's also a smile. So there's hidden messages in a lot of these. So we also have the enclosed negative space logo. So these are usually built out of the negative space. So for example, in snake right here, we have this cutout and we have a snake going into the S. We have this Glittles logo, so it has a small elephant within the shape of a big elephant. So these use, again, the positive space and the negative space to create the logo. Creates a full image, and sometimes some of these can fit into other areas, so they could be an enclosed negative space logo, could have a double entendre, could be typographic, could have a hidden image. So there will be some reaching over into different areas of these. For example, this Hope for African Children initiative, it gives us overall it's a negative shape in the negative space. However, in the positive we see an adult person and a child here, and giving us the shape of the African continent. Okay, so with that said and done, let's go ahead and brainstorm, and then we could create a logo. So first things first, once you have some sketches, I'm gonna have you guys do some sketches first, present them to me, and then we'll figure out which are your strongest sketches. And then we will go ahead and jump into Illustrator once we decide what is a good one. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Illustrator, and I'm going to go, actually before that, I'm going to go into my working folder, and I'm going to create a new folder. So within there, and I'm going to name this negative space logo. And that's where I'm going to save any of my files for this. So if you need to pull images, reference, go ahead and save anything there. I already have an idea, so I'm going to roughly sketch it out in Illustrator, and then I'm going to start vectorizing it. It's going to be more on the typographic, maybe the enclosed negative space logos area, so it will fill both of those. Okay, so after we open up Illustrator, we're going to go ahead and create new. Click on create new. And let's go ahead and change this to letter size, so 11 by 8.5 or 8.5 by 11, whichever way you want to look at it. And we are going to do, it's up to you whether you want a vertical or horizontal orientation. I'm going to do the horizontal because in my mind my logo is already going to be a little bit longer than it will be taller, so it's going to be horizontal. And make sure it's in inches, and let's go ahead and do RGB color. We might print these, but it's okay. We'll do RGB because we might also just show them on screen. And we'll just stick with one artboard for now. If you have other ideas, or if you want to do more, if you want to challenge yourself, you could do more artboards, or you could just save new documents and have a file per logo. So I'm going to go ahead and click create now. And let's go ahead and save it. So I'm going to do file, save as. And I'm going to find the folder where I have my my working folders. So it's going to be negative space logo. Here it is, and I'm going to name it. I'm going to make sure to highlight this untitled part. Leave the .ai. Make sure you do not delete that if you have it. And I'm going to name this negative logo and my last name. You could also do negative logo 1 if you plan to do a different one as well. You could leave it, as is. We could always change that later, so it doesn't quite matter. Just put your name on it. And I'm going to go ahead and save it in that folder. And go ahead and click OK. And now let's go ahead and pull up our rulers if they're not showing up. We don't necessarily need them, but I'm going to just have them up. So use Command or Control R. So the good thing about this is it is going to be a vector logo, so we're not going to lose quality whether we scale it up, scale it down. But this is a good start, a typical 8.5 by 11 sheet. Okay, so I have a sketch that I did really quick on my notepad. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sketch it out. I'm going to make a new layer. And if you're in class, we could always bring in your sketch. We could scan it, or you could take a photo of it, transfer it, and then we could set it up as a template. I'll show you guys how to do that, and then you would be able to trace it a lot better. For now, right here, I don't have a scanner at home, and I just quickly did it right now, so I'm just gonna transfer basically my sketch. So I'm gonna sketch it out in Illustrator. So I'm gonna name this layer sketch. And then I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer. And I'm going to name this one art or logo. So I'm going to lock up my logo layer for now. And select my sketch layer. And then I'm just going to select my brush. So I'm going to make sure I have no fill. I'm going to have a black stroke. And 1 pixel. Let me test it out. That should be good. Okay. So here is my my sketch. Due to the fact that it was recently September 11th, I decided to do something based off of the Twin Towers, and this is my sketch. So it's going to be something like this. And keep in mind, this is just a sketch. Let me undo it real quick. I just sketch it out first like this. And then the N is going to be in this negative space. And so I'm going to have a tower here, another tower here. And we could have like a little antennas there or something. And then let's have another T within the space. So I'm just gonna fill that in. So here's my sketch. So I'm gonna have two negative space letters here, so the N in the negative space here and a T here. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and select all this, and I'm going to make it just a small opacity, maybe drop down the opacity to about 25. And I'm going to go ahead and place it in the center, and now I'm going to go ahead and lock it. Now I'm going to unlock my logo layer, select that one, and this is where I'm going to start building. So obviously, since it's typographically driven, I'm just going to click on my type tool, and I am simply just going to type it out. So just click once, and I'm going to have it all caps, so Twin Towers. I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to go ahead and go into my characters panel, and I'm going to look for a font that I like. So I don't have a whole lot of fonts installed on this computer. Let's see, Chalet, bold. I wanted to go something a little bit bolder than that. And let me go ahead and choose impact. That's a good one. And I'm going to click a corner and drag, and then I'm going to hold shift. And I'm going to place it right here. Now, one thing I'm going to do is convert these to shapes, so it is no longer live text. So one thing I want to do is I want to make a copy of this. So if I hold Option or Alt, drag this down, I'm going to have a copy that is live text. So that's going to be my bottom one. So on this top one, I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to select Create Outlines. Now if I hold Command or Control Y, I could see one is live text, this is still all black, and this one is actually shapes. So I could go in and edit them as I wish. So let's go ahead and move both of these down a little bit. And as you see, most of these letters are going to stay the same, so there's not going to be a whole lot to it, but I am going to have to rework the N and the T over here to fit my buildings, my towers. So let's close this up. I'm going to select with my selection tool this top logo, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to ungroup, so that way I could access each one of these letters individually, because before they were grouped. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the N, and if I notice, the negative space right after the I is part of the N, so I'm going to drag this and butt it up all the way to the I. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create these negative spaces here turn them into positive spaces like my sketch. So it's these sharp points. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to simply do that with my pen tool. So I'm going to click right here. Luckily, Illustrator gives me like those guides, and I could click once, click on the next one, click down here, and click up here. So that gives me a shape. Before that, I should have made sure that my fill was black and my stroke was none. But if for whatever reason it didn't create that, I could always go back and change it. So now it's set, and let me show you what it would look like if it wasn't. Let's say if I had a stroke of pink and no fill. Actually, that's selected, so let me deselect. Let's just say my stroke was blue and my fill was none. So I would still click and select here, or click and put my points there just to create that shape. And all I would do simply is choose black as my fill, click OK, and choose none as my stroke, and there is my shape. Okay, so now if I do Command Y, I could see where my N is, and the shapes are there. So this is essentially where my tower is going to be, just to the right of this N. So I'm going to click on my rectangle tool, make sure I have a fill of black and no stroke, and I'm going to choose a thickness of one of my fonts here, or sorry, one of my letters. So actually the I is pretty good. So instead of creating that, I'm just going to select my click with my selection tool, select my I, and hold Option or Alt and drag this one to the right and put this one right at the end of the N. And I'm just going to drag it up just a little so that we know that one is our building. So I'm going to do Command or Control Y again to exit that outline view. And now I could simply just click on my N and delete it. So there I have my N created out of those shapes, the butting up against the I and the butting up against the tower. I'm going to zoom out again, and let's go ahead and select with my selection tool towers, hold shift, and I'm going to actually drag it to the right first, make sure everything's selected, drag it to the right and hold shift to give me a little space there. And now I'm going to duplicate this essentially the elongated I, hold Option or Alt, drag it to the right. Now I feel like these should be close, and let's make one slightly taller than the other. And now this T is going to be in the negative space, so I'm going to drag this over to the left, so everything together, hold shift to keep it all together. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create this space right here out of another shape. So this time we are going to click on a rectangle tool and we make sure we have black fill and no stroke. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. I'm going to start at the bottom here, click and drag, and I'm just going to go right up to the edge of that T where that vertical bar is, and then go up here. And so now I have that shape there. Now I'm going to go ahead and see how my sketch, this other part of the T kind of connects with the O, so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to hold Option or Alt since it's the same shape, hold Shift, and butt it up against the right. Do a Command Y. So essentially this is what I'm doing. I created this shape to fill this area, and the same thing here. And I'm going to go ahead and drag this further to the right because that's going to connect against the O. And let's see. Now I'm going to have to figure this one out. I didn't plan it through, but that's part of it. We're all going to be working together on these. So I'm going to select all of these letters and I'm going to bring in the O just so that the tip of this matches with that T. So I'm going to hold Shift and bring it in. Zoom in a little bit more, do Command or Control Y, and you can see what I want to do here is I want to have that O just connect right there. So let's go ahead and zoom out. And then I am going to create another shape here so that it connects with the O as well. So I'm going to select another rectangle tool here, and this one's going to be this part. So I'm going to connect this and take it all the way to this closing part of the O. Now I could go ahead and delete my T. And let's make this one a little bit smaller. It's going kind of into this negative space of the O. So let's bring that in. And it might not be the best, but there we have our negative N right here and our negative T right there. And let's go ahead and make these towers a little bit taller. And now we have pretty much our shapes. So let's go into our layers panel. I'm gonna delete my sketch. I no longer need that. Click yes. Usually what I do is I'll leave one of my files here. I'll have my live type in case I ever need to come back to it. I'll leave it outside of the artboard, and then I'll bring this one into my center. And now, since I have all these shapes kind of just hanging out here, I want to go ahead and connect them. So I'm going to go to my Pathfinder panel. So for example, I want to connect these two. So I'm going to click on one, hold shift, click on the other, and go to my Pathfinder panel. If I don't have it, I could go to Window, Pathfinder. And I'm going to go ahead and unite them. So click here, and right here I have three shapes to unite. So I could always do Command Y or Control Y and zoom in. And I could connect these to the O. So I'm going to select all three of these shapes, the O, this rectangle here, and this rectangle here. And I'm going to unite those. So now that just became one solid shape. And there we go. So that is my logo. So let's do a little bit of reference, a little bit of research here. So let's go ahead and search for, let's see, Twin Towers. And let's see, so one of them had the antenna, so they were essentially the same size. So let's go ahead and bring them up to the same size. I guess it just depends on the angle you're viewing them from. So this one looks a little shorter, but one of them for sure had that antenna. So I'm going to go ahead and make that one. So I'm going to go ahead and make this one just a little bit, actually this one just a little bit shorter, match it up, and then I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to click on my polygon tool, click and drag, and essentially what I want is a triangle. So with my polygon tool, if I click up, it's going to give me more sides, so it could eventually it'll get to like an almost circle. So I want to click on down with my down arrow on my keyboard, hold shift, and I created that triangle. Now I could just resize it like this. And I could go ahead and move it and place it up here, something like that. And now I could select both of these shapes and I could merge them as well. I could unite them with my Pathfinder tool. And there we go. So that is my Twin Towers logo. So yeah, so think of clever ways. I'm going to hold shift and drag this and try to take up most of the space in here. That way we could present these and see what we work with. So I'm curious to see your guys' work. So I might go ahead and do another one of these. And let's play around with some other shapes. So this is one, and let me go ahead and open another one shortly. So at the end, you're gonna save these and turn these in as Illustrator files. So let's go ahead and make a new one. So again, I'm gonna go to File, New, and I'm gonna start fresh. So again, I'm gonna make a letter one, letter size one. So it's gonna be 11 by 8.5 inches. This one, let's do an orientation where it's vertical. So portrait mode, again, RGB color, 300 ppi, go ahead and create. And I'm going to name this one very similarly. So I'm going to do File, Save As. And I'm going to click on this one. So negative logo, limon, and then I'm going to do _2. I'll change the other one to 1 afterwards. So let's go ahead and save this. Now I have to come up with an idea. So my idea on this one is it's going to be very similar, but I'm just going to type in the words, the word space, and then within the A, the negative space of the A, I'm going to go ahead and create maybe like a rocket or something. It's probably been done before, but you know, it just goes to show that within a letter you could create create a shape of something. So this one falls under, it might fall under like hidden image or enclosed. It could also be the double entendre. So you know, some of these are going to fall into the different areas of the negative space logos. So I'm going to type in space, and I'm going to make this one bigger. Hold shift if you happen to resize it. If you don't hold shift, you're going to stretch the letters out, and we don't want that. Type was designed to be used as is. You could always change it slightly if you need to, but for our purposes, we are just going to leave it as is. And I'm going to click on my type tool, highlight the words, and then I'm going to go ahead and change the font. So I'm going to go into my characters panel, and let's see if we could find a blockier font. Let's see what I have. Arial black, that might be a good one. And now looking at it, we probably could have benefited from a horizontal artboard, but it is fine. Again, these are going to be vector elements, so we could always scale them up and down as needed. Okay, so on this one, I'm going to make it a really tight tracking. So I'm going to go into my tracking in my characters panel, select everything first, and let's go ahead and tighten up everything here. And let's go ahead and resize it, holding shift. Now I'm going to make a copy of this, so I'm going to hold Option or Alt, drag this live text up. And this one, I'm going to right click it and create outlines. So now we have shapes. We could always test it out by doing Command or Control Y. So there we go, that's live text. And this one is shapes now. So one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of the negative space for the A. I'm going to click on my direct selection tool, click on this negative area right here. I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to delete this and delete this point. So now I have, let's see. Now I'm going to select both of these points. You can barely tell, but they are not necessarily joined. So I'm going to right click and click on join and select both of these points. And I'm going to go to my anchors and click on this minus sign right here. So now I have a completed, if I do Command Y, I have a complete shape right here. Okay, so now what I want to do is, let me do a little bit of research. This one was just an idea. I didn't have this planned, so I'm kind of doing it on the fly. So let's go ahead and look for a, that's going to be similar to this. So this ink and that negative space, we're going to have that sharp look to it, and it's going to be a rocket. So let me look at a rocket, see what it looks like. So we could do something like this. And let's look at a vector. So we could see like a more simplified version. So we could get an idea like this. So it's kind of like the big oblong shape and some tail fins and some fire. So we could go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and create a little drawing here. So I'm going to click on my pen tool. Actually, I'm going to go click on my ellipse tool, and I'm going to draw a shape like this. Now I'm going to click on my direct selection tool. I'm going to click on this top point, and I'm going to bring in these handles a little bit just to make this a little sharper. And I'm going to click on this center point here, and I'm going to delete it. And I deleted it by clicking on my remove selected anchor point up here in my control bar. And I'm going to change this color to white. And bring it up into my A. And let's resize it a little bit. So I'm going to select both of these shapes. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to select my space, right click it, and then ungroup it. Now I should be able to select both the A and that shape. So if I select both of them at the same time, and now I click on my A, so you see I get that second highlighted image. Now I could align both of these to the A. So I could click on align up here, and I could click on horizontal align center, and that's going to move my rocket ship centered with my A. Okay, so I'm going to bring this down a bit. I don't want it to look like an egg necessarily. And let's see, I'm going to click on these points, this point, and I'm going to bring this up a little. And I'm going to bring this handle up a little as well. And let's go ahead and bring this down. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and draw the fins. So I'm going to zoom in, and let's see what they look like again. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to click on my pen tool. I'm going to make sure my fill is white and my stroke is set to none. And I'm just going to click here, click here, click here. Now I'm going to go ahead and expand it here. And I'm going to create a curve right there. Zoom in a little bit. Click on my direct selection tool. So this is going to force me to use some other tools to be able to get my shapes. And now I'm going to copy this one to the other side. So I'm going to reflect it. I'm going to click and hold on my rotate tool. I have my rotate tool. So I'm going to double click it, and then I'm going to click on vertical and click copy. Okay, so we're going to try that again. So I'm going to deselect it, make sure I'm not on it. Now select it again, make sure I have the whole shape selected. Double click, and I'm going to have my preview on, so vertical, and I'm going to hit copy. So now it made a copy. Now I could go back to my selection tool. I could hold shift and drag it to the right, and make sure I have the proper space here. I don't want to set it too far out. So I want to make sure that my space here visually looks good. So now it's looking like something. And now what I thought was cool was the fire. So if I go back to my image here, I thought this little fire looked cool. So I'm going to go ahead and create something similar to that, and that's going to be at the bottom of my A in this area. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my, let's see, probably my pencil tool. My pencil tool N. This one I'm going to make sure my fill is black. Stroke is set to none. One last little reference look. Okay. So now I could just start freehand drawing. And let's change the color to black. For some reason it's not taking a black. There we go. And maybe it doesn't look as cool, but we could work on it a little bit. So I'm going to go back to my pen tool, my pencil tool, sorry, and I could always come back and reshape this. It takes a little while to get used to these tools. There we go. And I could always go in with my pencil tool, with my direct selection tool, sorry, and I could select the points and move these around as well. So similar like what we did to our car when we messed up that Mercedes in our book assignment in Photoshop. So essentially it is like pretty much the pen tool. Let's go ahead and bring this one in this way. And we could remove some of these points if we don't want them by just clicking on up here. And there we go, we have some fire. And that could be our other logo, so that could be our negative space logo. Now, if we do Command or Control Y, we still have our shapes there. So what we could do is to completely, instead of these being white, this could be the cutout, because I could move this here. I could select all of these shapes, the the rocket, and the two fins. Go to my Pathfinder panel, and I want to subtract these shapes from the A. So I could always go to minus front, and now that completely makes this a solid shape. A solid shape, and all of these are just cut out now. And of course the fire is going to have to be a separate element to it. And now I could zoom out, and I could group in all my shapes. So I could select everything, right click, and go ahead and make it a group. So click on group. So now if I just click on it, I would be able to move this around. So go ahead and save it. And once you are done, go ahead and turn in any and all of your negative space logos. So can't wait to see what you guys come up with. This should be very fun and exciting. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you on the next tutorial.